gonna be a different year. This is not the place for fear. I've got a job to do.
Well, happy Friday, everyone. Today is Friday, October 9th. Today during Block 1, like always, we did our video recording of the Block 1's lesson. And we got about 40 minutes into our lesson, and the camera shut off, and we once again lost our video. We had some technical difficulties again. So I'm just taking a second right now to film a little intro about what we did today. And then I actually went ahead and recorded Block 2. So you'll be able to join us in Block 2 where we did the reading, and we got to talk about the chapter a bit. So today what we did was we discussed the end of chapter 9. So in class, we talked about Max and Kevin developing trust in their friendship, and we talked about Kevin's big secret that he revealed at the end of chapter 9, where he tells Max that he is going to be the first human to get a bionic body. After that, we spent some time looking at Kid Blog and reading student questions and answering and discussing questions. One of the main reasons that we spend so much time discussing and talking is that part of the 6th grade standards is, in fact, speaking and listening. But more importantly, the speaking and listening is the first steps to becoming great writers. So I always tell the students that if you want to be able to be a great writer and write your thoughts and ideas down, first, you have to be able to talk about them and share them with our class. So we do spend a lot of time in discussion, which is intended to get the students really thinking and getting them ready to write. So after we did the student questions, we went ahead and we read Chapter 10 of Freak the Mighty. So each student today needs to make sure that they have finished reading the chapter, reading Chapter 10. It's a great chapter. I call it the Quest for Treasure. And they need to make sure that they submit their quiz and then get on Kid Blog and post their questions and, more importantly, answer other students' questions. Remember, the notes are available for you on Google Classroom for the reading strategy of questions and the depth of knowledge. So if you need to, go back and review those questions on that document. You can remember level 2 questions pick you up and put you right in the book and ask what you think or what you would feel in these situations. And level 3s, they're more challenging to write, but they take an aspect of the book and they pull that out and they ask you to apply it to your own life. All right, so now with that said, please join me in Block 2 as I discuss the end of Chapter 9 and we read Chapter 10. All right, Christian, you find your question? All right, do you find your question? You guys all have a question? All right, I have a couple questions I want to start us off with. Then we're going to get into your guys' questions. So the first thing that I want to talk about in this chapter is what is the secret that Kevin shares with Max? What is the secret, Emma?
That he told Kevin that inside of that, I think it was like that
Medical research facility.
He was going to get a bionic transplant, and he was the first person to ever get it.
What is going to be transplanted? He's going to get a bionic transplant.
His legs.
Not just his legs. Not just his arms.
His whole body.
Kara? His whole body. He's going to be the first human to get a bionic transplant. So he's going to get an entire new body. So my question is this. That was a level 1 question. If you were Max, how would you feel about hearing the secret about your friend? If you were Max, how would that information, how would you feel about it? Kara? Explain. Okay. Emma?
I would be scared for the person because...
Well, no, I'd be scared for Freak. This is your friend, your best friend.
Because if something does go wrong, and because they're probably going to turn, like, I think they turn out weird because if they're going to turn, like, instead of like a robot, like a human robot.
Uh-huh.
So he looks like a robot.
All right. All right, I'm going to come back to Kara, but first I want to hear from Xander.
I
Okay. Okay, sad because you could possibly lose your friend. Why happy?
And happy because he'd be getting a new body.
Okay, which we know he needs.
Yeah.
Okay. August?
Worried for him because he's getting a new body.
It makes sense to be worried. Yeah, I'd be worried. He's getting a whole new body. All right. Yeah, Kara?
I'd be worried because if he's a new body, they might not be freaking my
That's something that no one's mentioned yet. That's a really good thought. Not just worried that something might go wrong, but worried that it's going to change their friendship. They're not going to be Freak the Mighty anymore. What's going to happen to that dynamic? Emma?
Well, Max wouldn't carry Freak on his shoulders anymore because he would be able to walk.
Well, true. All right. But that's definitely something to be worried about, possibly. All right. Then the other question I have for you is this, Xander. This, to me, this chapter is all about trust. What does Kevin do that shows he trusts Max? How does Kevin show that he trusts him? August?
He tells a really big secret.
He tells him that really big secret. That big secret, he tells it to him. All right. How does Max demonstrate that he trusts Kevin? This one's a little harder to maybe see. I see one person thinks that they know. Anyone else besides? We'll give them a second to think. How does Max show trust in Kevin? We have another person. Tara, what do you think?
When they cross the road, like Max seems to freak out when Kevin's hands work over his eyes.
Yeah, on their quest. That's a good example. What Kara just said, August, was when they're going on their quest, we know that Kevin likes to use his imagination and paint this picture of houses that become castles and pools that become moats and kingdoms. And so Max has got his eyes covered by Freak. Freak is covering Max's eyes, and he's making him walk down the street and cross streets. So he's literally putting his life kind of in Freak's hands, right? Freak could lead him into traffic, or they could very much get hurt. All right, that's good. All right, those are my questions. What do you guys have? All right, let's start with Emma. Do you have your question, or did you find a good question that you liked?
I found my question.
All right, let's hear it. One more time.
What would you do if Kevin told you he was getting a bionic transplant and no one has gotten it done before?
All right, so what would you guys do? We kind of talked about it a little bit. You call. So this is your question, so you call on the people, Emma.
Oh, Clara.
All right, Xander, can you sit up?
I'd be happy because he gets to walk.
All right. Others? We kind of did talk about this. This was part of my question, so it's very similar. Kara, do you have a different question?
Mine is from the chapter before.
That's okay. Let's hear it.
It's a level 1 question. What did Freak say to the cops when the cops found Freak and Max in a lake?
All right.
The run of
What did he say?
Yeah, what did he say? What did Freak say to the cops after they found him and Max in the lake after they got away from Tony B?
Well, he said, wait, that was back at the
That was on 4th of July.
This is the big moment on the 4th of July.
Oh, where he said, where they asked who they were, and he said, we're Freak the Mighty.
Yeah, or gives them that new name. Okay, so at the start of today's reading, at the start of the chapter, I want you to think about the setting. Where and when does this chapter start? And then also think about the plot. What's happening, okay? So we'll read the first couple pages and then we'll stop, and I want you guys to fill in where we're at with the setting and with the plot. All right, chapter 10, Rats or Worse. One thing that happened over the summer, I grew even more. Grim takes a look at me one day and he goes, "All that walking you do, it must be stretching out your legs. And carrying poor Kevin around, that seems to be putting real muscle on you. He's not that heavy. And anyhow, it's not fair everybody always says poor Kevin just because he didn't grow." Grim gives me this long, sorrowful look, and then he clears his throat and says, "You're quite right. He is a rather remarkable boy. He's memorized almost the whole dictionary. You can ask him anything and he knows what it means." What's Freak's favorite book, guys?
Dictionary.
Yeah, I'm surprised by how many people didn't get that one right on the quiz. On one of the quizzes, one of the questions was, what's his favorite book?
Probably didn't read it then.
Yeah, probably don't.
I was paying attention. I was having
You don't say, Grim says. And he has this smug look like maybe Freak is lying, and a total goon like me would never get it. And I want to tell him that he's wrong about Freak and the dictionary. But instead, I just shut my face and go down on. He's okay sometimes. Like when Tony D chased us into the pond. But most of the time, he thinks he knows everything, which he doesn't. And if you don't believe me, look under Grim in the dictionary. It doesn't say a smart grown-up. No way. So I'm hanging out down under, listening to some of my thrash tapes on the fake Walkman I got last Christmas, when Freak pops up on my side of the bed. Because of the headphones and the volume being pumped up to mega decibel, I never hear him come in. He's suddenly there, like, whoa. And I'll bet I jumped about a foot. Freak rolls his eyes and goes, "Ah, music, how it calms the savage beast. How'd you get here? Would you believe teleportation? No? Then I came down through the bulkhead door like always. And like always, I have a quest in mind." Right away I go, my feet hurt. All right, so look, when and where are we? Emma?
in the map.
We're in the down under, all right? And do we really know when we are? No, it's just, all we can really tell is it says one thing that happened over the summer, I grew even more. So it's still in the summertime, some days later. And what has Freak come to do? What has Freak?
Bring on another quest.
There you go. This should go where on your graphic organizer?
Setting.
Plot. This is an event, okay? The setting is the down under. The when is sometimes still over the summer. What's happening? The plot. Freak has come to take Max on another quest. Right away I go, my feet hurt. We don't have to leave the neighborhood. Cool. What kind of quest is this? Freak grins. A treasure hunt. Add that to your notes, guys. This is not a regular quest, August. This is a treasure hunt. Can you open your book so you're following along? Freak grins. A treasure hunt. Except we don't really have to hunt because I already know where treasure is. Where? Underground, he says. Specifically in the sewer. Yeah, right, I say, and sit back down on the bed. Freak is looking at me sideways, and I can tell that he's not telling me everything, which he almost never does, not all at once. Truth, he says. The treasure is hidden in a storm drain that has been confirmed by visual observation. Treasure in a storm drain? You mean like gold and diamonds kind of stuff? Possibly, he says, acting mysterious. Anything is possible. The deal is we have to wait until night, so no one can see us messing with the storm drain. Not just night, Freak says. We need to do it at exactly 3 in the morning. Optimum darkness occurs at 0300 hours, he says, looking at the new watch his mom gave him. The kind that tells you what time it is in Tokyo, just in case you're wondering. We must dress in black and cover our faces with soot. For the next couple of hours, we try to find soot, but it turns out you need a fireplace for soot, or at least a chimney. So Freak finally decides that my idea about using regular dirt will have to do. I've got black dungarees, I say, but no black shirts. Can I just wear a dirty shirt? Freak makes a face and says, what a disgusting idea. Don't worry about the shirt. I'll get you one. Can you manage black socks? All right, when do they have to go on the quest, Kara? 3 in the morning. This is part of the setting. So we know that these guys have to go at 3 in the morning. In the book, okay, there is this line break, right, between the part that I just read and the next part that we're going to read. Does anybody know what that break is, August?
It's the start of the next program.
No, because the book, we've been having new paragraphs all along, and one paragraph starts right where the next one begins. But this one, if you look at the bottom of 56, there's a gap. There's a gap between paragraphs. That gap does mean something. Emma?
It means where, instead of having to write like a bunch more information, they just skip into where the next report is.
Good guess. Do you know, Kara? Do you know, Xander? August? It's a
break.
It's a break. It's a scene change. It usually signifies some kind of an elapsed time or a scene change. All right, it's no different than in a movie where we change scenes. So we go from these guys. These guys right now, he woke Max up in the morning. So he wakes him up in the morning and tells him, I have a quest for us. But we have to go at 3 in the morning in the middle of the night. So what happens is we have an elapsed time. So now we're going to pick up with them in the middle of the night, later on in the day. All right? You ever notice how long it takes for things to happen when you know they're supposed to happen? My fake Walkman has a built-in alarm, and I set it for 2 in the morning and wear the headphones to bed. But before you can wake up, you have to fall asleep, and I never do fall asleep because I keep waiting for the alarm to go off, which is, I know, typical butthead behavior. All right, at that line break, I should have stopped. This is a really good time, guys, to pause and think about a level 2 question. All right? Because part of your homework is still writing a question. Freak has just come to your house. He's woken you up in the morning, and he's told you, I want to take you on a quest. It is a treasure hunt. We're going into the sewer to get some treasure. I want each one of you right now to finish this question. If you were Max,
How would
you write it down. Write it on your paper. Write it on your paper. Or what would you think? This is a spot where you guys should take a second and pause and maybe try to put us into the book a little bit. I'm lying awake in the dark on a hot summer night, and I'm thinking, treasure in the sewer? What kind of quest is this? Is Freak completely making this up or what? Meanwhile, there's this cricket making this creaky cricket noise that normally is okay, except when you're trying to fall asleep. Then it's not okay. And you want a big can of Raid, send it to Disney World or Insect Heaven or wherever it is that dead crickets go. Question: how come Freak knows about this stuff in the storm drain? Question: how come we have to put dirt on our faces? Question: how come 3 in the morning? Question: how long do crickets live? Now, I told you guys a second ago, stop and ask a question. Even our main character, Max, is sitting here thinking about what Freak told him. And he's like, man, I have all these questions in my head. You know, how come Freak knows about this treasure in the storm drain? Why do we have to put dirt on our clothes? And why 3 in the morning? Our main character here, we see him thinking about the events that are happening to him in the book. And that's what I'm asking you to do when I'm asking you guys to do a level 2 question. I'm asking you to think, just like Max is thinking here. He gives you an example. Finally, I give up on the first 3 and work on the cricket problem. But the little critter is pretty clever. It stops cricketing whenever I get too close, and I never do find it and squash it with my shoe, which I swear I am ready to do, even if crickets are supposed to be harmless. And then after almost forever, it gets to be 2:30, and I figure that's close enough. I'll go up and wait under Freak's window like I promised. There's no moon. The sky is dark and empty. Page 58. And the backyards are so lonesome, it feels creepy and exciting. The truth is, I've never been out alone at this time of night. I only fall down a couple of times, which isn't bad considering how hard it is to see. When I get to Freak's bedroom window, he's waiting for me. You sound like a car wreck, he says. Here, you better put on this shirt so you don't glow in the dark. Out of the window, he hands me this silly-feeling shirt. Hey, wait a minute. This is your mom's blouse. It's black, he says. That's what counts, the camouflage factor. Forget it, I say, and give him back the Fair Gwen's blouse. Freak sighs. Okay, he says. Roll around on the ground and darken yourself. That's easy, and better than wearing some dumb blouse. What about you? I ask when I'm covered with dirt enough so I want to sneeze. Freak goes, beware the Force, Earthling. And he stands up in the window, and I can see he's got a Darth Vader costume on. Except he's not wearing the mask part. He opens the window, all the way, and I lift him out and put him on my shoulders. He goes, "Pledge to me your fealty." And I say, "Huh?" And he says, "Never mind. There's no time to look up fealty. Just promise me that you'll do what I say." I promise. "Go to the end of the block," he orders. "Attempt to conceal us in the shadows." That's easy, because the street is one big shadow. It's so dark I can hardly see my feet. Or maybe I got some dirt in my eyes. But the point is, no one sees us because there's no one to see us. You'd never know anybody lived here, let alone a whole block full of people. It's like we're on an empty planet or something. Now, guys, Max is giving us a really good description of what?
Of the date of the
neighborhood, the setting.
The setting. Remember, a setting is not just a when and a where. It's a description. Remember, when are they now? What time is it?
2:30.
Well, it's about 3 in the morning, middle of the night. Describe it. Dark. Write it down. The setting. We're dark. How does Max describe it? He calls it creepy and exciting at the same time. It's creepy and it's exciting. This is Max describing the setting. So when we talk about setting, you've heard me say it's when and where, but it's also a description. This is what we mean here, Emma. So when are we? 3 in the morning. Where are we? We're in Max's neighborhood still. Describe it. Dark. Creepy but exciting. Is anyone out? No. So the streets are empty. It's silent. Write it down, Kara. It's empty. It's silent. Max describes it as being, he uses a simile. It's like we're on an empty planet. That's what he uses to describe. All right, so no one is around. All right, page 59. Was the real Darth Vader as tall as this? Freak asks from where he's riding high up on my shoulders. I thought it was just a movie. You know what I mean. What's that? That is a cat that runs out from under my feet, so out of nowhere, sudden that my heart goes wham! Onomatopoeia. Was it a black cat? Freak wants to know. Too dark to tell, I say. Are we almost there? Finally, I figure out it's hard to see because the Darth Vader cape is hanging in my eyes. But by then, we're at the end of the block, and the storm drain is right there by the curb. See if you can pull it open, Freak says. He's standing with his arms folded, and the expression on his face, well, he really does look like a pint-sized Darth Vader. I hook my hands in the storm drain grate and give it a heave, but nothing happens. I can't budge it. I'm on page 60 now. Try again, he says, with his arms folded, like he's a lord of the universe. I try again, and it's like the grate is super glued or something. No way can I pull it up. Freak is tugging at my legs, and he goes, Option 2 is now in effect. He reaches inside his little cape. Out comes a flashlight, one of those small kinds that looks sort of like a cigarette lighter, and also a spool of kite string. I devised a special retrieval device, Freak says. Looks like a bent paper clip on a string, I say, and Freak tells me to shut up and follow orders. Now, as I've been reading, there are several things that you guys should be putting down throughout here. The plot. How many things do you have right down now for plot, August? One. We want to fill this in. So, our chapter, okay, how does it start? I was asking Kara. Freak wakes up Max and tells him we're going to go on a treasure hunt. That's kind of the first thing. What's the next thing that happened that you might put down? Xander, you should be writing. I notice I don't see you writing. We're helping you fill in your reading guide with the plot events right now. Okay. All right. August. What happens after that? Freak tells Max, hey, I'm going to go take you on a treasure hunt.
Then Max goes to Freak's window.
Yeah, he waits. Max waits and goes to pick up Freak at 2:30 in the morning. right? Yeah, what's that?
Down the box, but it's consumed.
Yeah, you could be as detailed as you want here. Here's the thing, I wouldn't want you to get bogged down in writing every detail. All right, so I wouldn't want you to write every paragraph what happened. Every couple of pages, like right now we're stopping and we're thinking, okay, Freak woke up Max in the morning, tells him there's a treasure. Max then waits and he goes to pick up Freak at 2:30 in the morning. And now they have 3 in the morning. And again, you could add details about Freak and Max here in Max and Kevin. You know, we could talk about Kevin, how is he dressed? He's dressed like Darth Vader. Again, it just shows us a little bit about his personality and what he's into. All right, so and Max's, Kevin's plan to first open up the grate is to do what? Yeah, Max. I got big, strong Max. Max, option number 1, dude, you're just going to open up the grate. You're just going to lift up the grate, you know how heavy those things are, and then we'll be able to get the purse. So that option didn't work. So here Freak says, option 2 is now in effect. And he calls it a retrieval device. But what does Max call it?
A flashlight on paper.
A string.
A paperclip on a string. He uses a flashlight, but he's like, I mean, it's about the way that Freak thinks about things. He goes, okay, I have devised a special retrieval device. You know, whereas you and I might be like, all right, I've got a paperclip on a string we can use. But it's just the way that Freak goes about using language and the way that he just goes about thinking about things. And Max looks like a bent paperclip on a string, I say, and Freak tells me to shut up and follow orders. You hold the string, he says, and then he gets down on his knees and shines the little flashlight through the grate. Can you see it, he asks. Can you? I look, but it's hard to see anything. And it smells like something died in the storm drain, which, come to think of it, probably did. Rats, or worse. Down there, Freak says, the beam is hitting it right now. That's just a piece of junk. Wrong, Freak says, real fierce. It looks like a piece of junk. It may very well contain fabulous wealth. Drop the line down and see if you can hook it. I'm thinking, boy, what a butthead, rolling in the dirt for this little Darth Vader so he can play pretend games in the middle of the night. But I do what he asks. I drop the hook down, and much to my surprise, it actually hooks into something. And when I pull up on the kite string, I can see what it is. A purse, I say. Looks like a grotty old purse. You guys should be actively writing down into your plots right now. Careful, Freak says. Pull it up to the grate so I can grab the strap. I bring it up an inch at a time, and Freak, manages to get his small hand down through the grate and grab hold of the soggy old purse. And then he almost drops it. I yank up on the kite string, and we both manage to squeeze the slimy purse up through the bars. Phew! Mission accomplished, Freak says. The old purse is torn and wet, and I don't want to touch it unless I have gloves on. Gross, I say. Somebody must have flushed this down a toilet. No way, Freak says. I saw one of Tony D's punks stuff it down there yesterday morning. Yeah? They must have stole it. No doubt, Freak says. And he opens the clasp and points his little light inside the purse. By now, I know there isn't going to be any treasure. But still, this is pretty cool. Recovering, page 62, stuff that Blade's gang ripped off from some little old lady or whatever. A wallet, Freak says. And he flips open this cheap-looking wallet, the kind that's made to hold credit cards. There's no money inside, but there is a plastic ID card. And on the plastic card is a lady's name, Loretta Lee. Make sure you add her name, okay? Now, this is a plot. What did the guys find? What was the treasure, August?
It was an ID.
No, not an ID. It was an old purse. The treasure was an old purse. How did the purse get in the storm drain? Xander?
Tony D flushed it down the drain.
Tony D didn't flush it down the drain.
Tony D's friend.
But they didn't flush it.
They
Yeah, they shoved it down there. So they hid it down in the drain. They shoved it down in the drain. And Freak knew about it simply because he saw it. Okay, so that's how Freak just knew about this being in the drain. And what was in the purse, Emma? And who does the ID card belong to? Loretta Lee. We just met a whole new character. There's no money inside, but there is a plastic ID. And the plastic card is a lady's name. Loretta Lee, Freak says. I'll bet you anything she's a damsel in distress. Which, as it turns out, is almost true. The real deal is that she's a damsel who causes distress. Which we find out the very next day. Dun, 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 dun. All right, we actually finished reading the chapter. All right, and we have a very good idea of this plot. All right, we were able to trace all of the events. We know about the setting. So your job now, guys, is to make sure, Xander, that you write your own level 2 or 3 question. You know, I know always when I read this chapter, the kinds of questions that come to my mind about if I were Max, all right? But your job is to write your question and make sure that you guys complete your quiz. Last thing I'm going to say is this. Every quiz has some kind of short written response. Most of those ask you guys to answer in a complete sentence or a short paragraph. Many people, even though it asks to write your answer in a short paragraph, they're giving me maybe a sentence. Sometimes it's not even a sentence. Sometimes it's just 2 or 3 words without capitals and without periods. Now, those short answer questions, they're always worth more than 1 point. They're worth 2, 3, sometimes 4 points. If you don't answer them as I've asked you to do so, you're not going to get those points. So if it says answer in a short paragraph and you write 1 sentence, it's not a paragraph. Okay? So you guys need to make sure that when you do your quizzes, you're answering the short written responses to the best of your ability. And I really want to see how well you guys write. I know your 5th grade teachers have taught you guys about writing sentences, paragraphs, so I kind of want to see where you're at so I can shape our instruction going forward, guys.